New battlefield maps suggest that Ukrainian and Russian forces are both edging forwards in different parts of the eastern Donetsk Oblast, as Kyiv and Moscow look to win vital military momentum ahead of the onset of limiting weather conditions through the fall and winter months. The latest update published by the Institute for the Study of War (ISW) shows small Ukrainian gains around the devastated city of Bakhmut, while Russian forces made meager progress around the fortress Ukrainian-held city of Avdiivka some 35 miles to the south. Avdiivka, on the outskirts of the Russian-occupied city of Donetsk, which was at the heart of the Kremlin-sponsored separatist uprising against Kyiv in 2014, is one of the most heavily defended Ukrainian cities in the eastern Donbass theater. Recent Russian attempts to encircle the area have so far come at a high cost. Kyiv claims to have destroyed more than 300 pieces of military equipment and killed 3,000 Russian troops in a week of defensive fighting around Avdiivka. Newsweek cannot independently verify the casualty figures and has contacted the Russian Defense Ministry by email to request comment. Despite Moscow's initial reported heavy losses, the ISW reported that Russian offensive actions are continuing in the heavily defended area. Russian forces continued offensive operations in the Avdiivka direction on October 16 and recently made some gains, albeit at a relatively slower pace than in the initial attacks, the think tank's Monday bulletin said. Geolocated footage, it added, suggests Russian forces, marginally, advanced past the E50 highway, the arterial road connecting Donetsk to western Ukraine, around 2 miles south of the city. The Ukrainian General Staff reported that Ukrainian forces repelled a total of 22 Russian attacks in the Avdiivka direction in the past day, notably fewer than the 30 reported attacks on October 15, the ISW wrote. Russian sources noted that Russian forces have increased the intensity of air and artillery strikes on the settlement in order to compensate for slow ground maneuvers, which are complicated by heavy Ukrainian fortifications surrounding Avdiivka. President Vladimir Putin and Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu are both seemingly downplaying operations around Avdiivka, describing the actions as an active defense, intended to prevent Ukrainian offensives. Kyiv's troops, though, are making slight progress around Bakhmut. The destroyed city has played host to some of the most intense combat of the war, its name now synonymous with Russia's devastation doctrine. Since losing the city to Russian forces, led by Wagner Group mercenaries, in May, Ukrainian units have been inching forwards around its northern and southern flanks while their comrades push the main Ukrainian counteroffensive focus on the southwestern Zaporizhia front. Ukrainian forces continued offensive operations near Bakhmut and in western Zaporizhia Oblast on October 16, the ISW bulletin read. The Ukrainian General Staff reported that Ukrainian forces conducted offensive operations in the Melitopol and Bakhmut directions. The ISW noted consternation among some Russian pro-war military bloggers, citing the Philologist Telegram channel as warning that Ukrainian forces have crossed the railway line south of Bakhmut in some places. The blogger suggested the lack of reporting of this Ukrainian advance demonstrated fellow war reporters are censoring news that is negative for Russian forces in the area. Russian President Vladimir Putin may be trying to lower expectations that Russia can make significant progress in its fight for a strategic Ukrainian village, experts said. Last week, Russia launched one of its biggest attacks in months on Avdiivka, a key village in Ukraine's southeastern Donetsk region. But so far it appears to have made little progress, with reports instead pointing to major Russian losses. Speaking on Russian state television on Sunday, Putin seemed to downplay Russian efforts there, describing actions in Avdiivka, as well as Kupiansk and Zaporizhia, as an active defense, Washington, D.C.-based think tank the Institute for the Study of War said. This shows Russia may be trying to temper expectations of significant Russian advances around Avdiivka, it said. Putin's description of events are notably different from other prominent Russian voices, with Russia's ambassador to the UN, Vasily Nebenzia, calling them active combat operations on Friday and Russian mill bloggers calling it an offensive, the ISW said. Avdiivka has been the scene of some of the most intense fighting in Ukraine's counteroffensive pushback, with Ukraine recapturing the village in September. Strategically, Avdiivka offers a gateway to parts of Ukraine occupied by Russia. But it also holds symbolic importance for both sides. For Ukraine, it is a symbol of recent victory, and for Russia, a Ukrainian military spokesman noted, it is the only chance to show some kind of victory. Analysts said Russia lost at least 15 tanks and 33 armored vehicles in about 2 days of its assault last week. Ukrainian units fighting there said they were holding Russian forces back, and videos from the area show destroyed Russian armored vehicles. Dmytro Lysyuk, commander of Ukraine's 128th Separate Mountain Assault Brigade, said there is no chance Russia's forces there would break through, The Guardian reported. The ISW said on Sunday that Russia was carrying out intensive artillery and air strikes near Avdiivka, which are likely intended to degrade Ukrainian forces. But it said Russia's efforts were unlikely to work, and that it would need a lot more soldiers and resources to actually be successful. It added, Russian forces are unlikely to make significant breakthroughs or cut off Ukrainian forces in the settlement in the near term, and potential advances at scale would likely require a significant and protracted commitment of personnel and material. Russian forces have lost 289,430 troops in Ukraine since the beginning of its full-scale invasion on February 24 last year, the General Staff of Ukraine's Armed Forces reported on October 17. This number includes 800 casualties Russian forces suffered just over the past day.